So we are with seven tonight, and we'll be discussing the theory of the firm. Okay, so this is the pattern. We'll be talking about firms. We'll be talking about industries. We'll be talking about factors of production. We talk about short-term production function. We are going to talk about the law of variable proportion, which is also law of diminishing return. Okay, so outside I have firms and industries. So we're talking about fame, or we're talking about a firm, talking about an organization that produces goods and services for profit. Yet, just any organization basically that produces goods and services for profit. And firm, they specialize in production and distribution of goods under same administration and management. You get example of firms. You want to talk about the Dangote groups, like Dangote group. You get you want to talk about um you want to talk about Cadbury, or you even want to talk about your home business, your home little shop. You want to talk about Victor Enterprise. You want to talk about your own startup. You want to talk about you get like basically when you're talking about fame, the point I just want to get is that okay, you're talking about an organization that aims at any profit, and the organization is under an administration or management. You get, but when you're talking about industry on the other hand, you're talking about a group of firms producing similar or related goods and services. You know, them now. I made example that would be I made example of okay myself. I made example of Victor Enterprise. You could mention banks under firm. You get. But if you're talking about industry, you're talking about the combinations of different things. Like you're talking about the banking industry. You know, when you're referring to banking industry, you include GTBank, you include Zenith, you include Sterling, you include all banks that could just comes to your mind. You get. But you're thinking about fame, you're basically talking about just an individual. You get okay. And okay, like I said, under fame that okay, they are under an administration or management. Yeah, in the firm, I mean industry rather. They have separate administration, they have separate firm. You know, yeah, we are used to hearing the word film industry. You know, like okay, J15, we're talking about one production. One production is a film. J15 is a film. But when you're talking about whole of them, or you're talking about what's this guy's name? Hey, this Sonia TV is a film. But we're talking about an industry, the film industry. So it will bring all of this listed name as an industry. You get that will mix up the film industry. Um, Films are key decision making entities in the economy, yes. And they combine various inputs to produce output. They combine various inputs to produce outputs. In economics, when you're talking about inputs, or you're talking about outputs, you get it is about inputs. You're talking about the force, like the things, the factors that you put into production. You get the things, the combination of all sorts that brought the existence of a good or production. When you're talking about output, you're talking about the results. Oh, maybe in a bakery, you bake bread. The result is bread, you get. But your input, labor, or buying of the machine, you get. we have to to that result that we get to see. Okay, so yeah, there's an example. I don't know why the examples are always showing half, but I just tried to read it before the class. So yes, what is written here is a bakery is a firm, and all bakeries in a region is an industry. You get, like, I made an up of the film industry and listing all different production like Sonia movie with Kadri TV and all that are under the film industry. So now you talk about a bakery, when you talk about just a single entity, you talk about a bakery, you talk about a film. But when you combine all of them together or all of it together, you're talking about industry. Okay, thank you. Let's move to the second slide. But this factors of production. You're talking about factors of production. You're talking about all all the tools. You're talking about everything you put together to make production come alive. I'm sure we are familiar with the term production. Yes, in one of our classes, I actually defined that. And production is basically the conversion of raw materials into finished good. And your definition of production isn't complete until there is utility. So when you convert your raw material into finished good, you are satisfying, you're trying to satisfy your consumers. You get. So the things that make up production, we have the land. Yes, they are the factors of production. We have the land, we have our labor, we have capital, and we have entrepreneurship. So when you talk about land as a factor of production, you understand the natural resources. Yes, it is a natural resources used in production product and process. You get, and you can use it for farming. You can build on a land. You get, you can invest, like plant your machinery on a land. You get, and land has no cost of production. That is, before land come into existence, there was no cost in producing land, and it's not written here. I don't want to assume that we're all familiar with it. So when we talk about land, the reward of land is rent. Okay, so the second factor of production is labor. And talking about labor, you're talking about human effort. So when you talk about human effort, you're talking about both the physical and the mental efforts used to produce goods and services. You get, so and laboring, it could be the efforts could be geographically, and it could be occupationally. Like when you talk about labor, labor is mobile. Labor can move around. And we're talking about labor being mobile. That's what I'm trying to explain. Like to be geographically, that means your labor can move from one place to another. You get, you could move from Lagos to Abuja for work to work. You can move from any part. You can move from Ikeja to Aja to work. You get. And if you're talking about labor moving occasionally, to move from, okay, being a banker to being a farmer, you get. And labor could be skilled or unskilled. When we're talking about skilled labor, this is a kind of labor that involves your mental, sorry, that involves mental in involvement. Like it involves some qualification. When I think about skilled labor, this kind of labor doesn't really involve so much. You don't really need to be learned, like to be a cleaner yet, or to to be a nanny. There's a limit to the qualification you need. to get all this kind of work you get. And the reward of knowledge. So you're talking about capital, you're talking about machinery, tools, and infrastructures used in production. Yes, we're talking about it being machinery, we're talking about it being tools, talking about it being infrastructure. Based on the types of capital we have fixed capital, we have social capital, and when you're talking about fixed capital, we're talking about assets that can be used up at home. You get like here we are when you're in a started production, you can't make use of car, you can't exhaust car for just a certain production. Of course, by the time you're done with this, still use car to move around. You still use it for more production, for further production. You still go. So that's like their machinery, their tools, their infrastructure. Capital can also be the money used in starting up your business. And basically, it's said to be the man-made wealth. And the reward for capital is interest. You're talking about entrepreneurship. You're talking about the ability to combine the other factors of production to create goods and services. Yes, this is the human, or this is the backbone, all other factors of production. Like the entrepreneur is the one that makes the decision, is the one that bears the risk, is the one that provides the capital. You get, is the one that maximizes and utilizes all the factors of production to create goods and services. I hope we are good and clear on factors of production. Okay, so we are talking about short run production function. Yeah, it is. The short run production function describes the relationship between inputs and outputs when at least one factor of production is fixed. I hope we still remember the definition of input and output in economics. I talked about input the other time. I was like, this this are the efforts that you put, your investment in making production come into existence, like the factors of production. When we're talking about how to, we're talking about your result. You get, so when you're talking about the short run of production function, so you're talking about the relationship that exists between the two. And in economics, short run is a specific period. Listening when for factors of production such as plants or equipment are fixed, and while others like labor varies. And it is what it also is like. Like again, the short term firms can only change the variable factors like labor, while some factors like capital remain fixed. And why? Why is it that okay? We're talking about short term. No, the firm, they can make their labor, they can change it. When it gets to capital, it's fixed. Again, this example here too. I don't know why it's called short. It says in the bakery, firm can hire more workers. Yes, I I completed this, like this example in my head with the idea and the understanding I have on the definition. Like, okay, in a bakery, a firm can hire more workers compared to building a new bakery or getting new tools. Yes. The reason why it is easy for firms to change factors of production like labor is because it is easy to adjust and it is flexible. You can get more workers, you can employ more people. But when it gets to capital, before you talk about capital investment, before you get to build new houses, before you get to construct roads or get plants and machinery, you know, it's going to definitely take a while. You get. And we're talking about short run again. I want to establish this. They're talking about short duration. You see that the label can be achieved in a short duration compared to raising capital or investing capital investment. I hope we are together. Okay. So our next slide we have total product. Sure, I want to check my percentage. Okay. Total product. Okay. So when I talk about total product, is the total quantity of output with a given quantity of input. Total quantity of output produced with a given quantity of input. The total result you get or you can achieve with your given output, with your investment, with your total product. So total product increases as more variable inputs like labor are added to fixed capital like machineries. Okay, yeah, it is. We have an example. We have an example here. A bakery hires 10 workers and produce 500 loaves of bread. The total product of labor for 10 workers is 500 loaves. From the definition, it says the total quantity of output produced with a given quantity of input is our total product. And here we have an example. We have an illustration that says a bakery hires 10 workers and produces 500 loaves of bread. Of course, from this illustration, our total product is 500 loaves. You get. This means the efforts of all workers combined together, like the efforts of all 10 of them combined together, is what gives us that 500 loaves of bread. And since we've established the fact that, okay, our total product is talking about the total quantity output. So we agree that our total product here is 500 loaves. So I have another example here because beyond illustrations like this, the times that we get to calculate to get okay, like if 20 men were employed in a firm and they produce an average of units of goods per person, what is the total product? So in this kind of situation, or in this situation rather, our total product would be average product multiplied by labor. Let me take the question again. If 20 men were employed in a firm and they produce an average of 10 units of goods per person, what is our total product? You see that this question differs from the one in the slide. And I said the formula for the total product, the formula we use to solve this question is average product multiplied by labor. That means our average product, the average production is 10 now. You get. You now multiply it by the number of men. You multiply it by the number of labor. So we are going to have 200 units. I hope we are good. Thank you. Okay, so now we move to marginal product. Now think about marginal product, like I said in our previous classes, and even the last class we had, I established that anytime you hear the word marginal, we're basically talking about additional. We're talking about extra. And now I'm saying it again for those that missed those classes or those that are not familiar with the word marginal. Anytime you come across the word marginal, you're talking about additional, you're talking about extra. You get. So marginal whatever is extra whatever is additional whatever. And yeah, it says marginal product is the additional output produced. We've established our total product like that. Now we're in marginal product. And we established that when you hear the word marginal, you talk about additional, you talk about extra. I hope I'm making sense. So marginal product is the additional output produced when one more unit of variable input, e.g. labor, is added, holding other inputs constant. You know, in our short run too, I mean our short run function, this total products, marginal products, average products that we still discuss about. All of these are, yeah, they are still under short-term production function. All part together. Okay, so let's talk about marginal products. Like I said, is the additional output produced when one unit of variable input, e.g. labor, is added, holding other input constant. We are still talking about short-term function. You see that our labor varies. We could change labor, but other input, other investments, other factors of production remain constant. And we are dealing with a marginal whatever. You know that it is change in one thing over change in another. And when you're talking about change, you're talking about the new minus the old. I hope we are together. Okay, so if adding the fifth, okay, sorry, example. If adding the fifth worker to the bakery increases output from 400 to 450 loaves, then the marginal product of fifth worker is 40 loaves. Let's do this together. Imagine adding a fifth worker to the bakery increases output from 400 to 40 loaves. Then our marginal product of the fifth worker is 40 loaves. So now, I said we're talking about marginal, or you're talking about change rather. You're talking about the new minus old. So now, which of these loads is the new and which is the old? Of the example here, it says output from 400. So if our output was 400, that means 400 was the old output. You get. And to 440, that means 440 is our new output. You get. Then the marginal, okay, then we're looking for the marginal product to get. Probably, if adding fifth worker, that means there were four. You get. Yes, I'm here. I know the if adding the fifth worker, sorry for the distraction. And here, if adding the fifth worker, that means there were four. Then we had someone here to make them five. Who's the fifth person? Yes. So you just say your change in total product. Eh? The total product we have here is 440 and 400. And the new one is 440 and the old one is 400. So you just say 440 minus 400. You subtract the old one from the new one. Then you now subtract your new your old label from the new one too. So that means your 5 minus 4. Yes. So you have 4 440 minus 400. That's 40 over 1. 5 minus 4 will be 1. Yes. So that's how they got the 40 loads here. It's not magical. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we move to average product. Average product is the total product divided by the number of units of total product divided by labor. Yes, the total product divided by labor. This is just straightforward. the total product or your total output divided by number of labor. Yes. If 10 workers produces 500 loaves, the average of labor is what?